Good evening, everyone. Welcome to FPL BlackBox, the last one before another international break. Thanks to anyone that's watching live. Liverpool are on, humiliating Atletico Madrid. So thanks for tuning in if you're here. And if you're watching it later, shame on you for not catching us live. How are you, Mark?
I have to say humiliating, like that adds some context to what we're about to go through. Yes, hello, I'm all good. Yeah, how you doing?
Just get these buzzwords in early.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. No, I'm good. I'm a little bit tired, a little bit drained. It's been a hard day, but I'm looking forward to a nice, comfortable, easy 2-hour chat with my FBL buddy, of course. There you go.
Lovely.
Buttering you up there because I don't want to be on the end of a whiplash. Yeah, all right, whatever. Hey,
Post wild card.
Don't be too smug. Don't be too smug, right?
Me?
Yeah.
Me?
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, yeah, it's show 51. I forgot we got an international break coming up. It doesn't seem very long since the last one. I don't like them, but I could do with a break, to be honest. But even so, I'm not really welcoming 2 weeks without FBL. Really, that's a pain.
No, I mean the key is having a good week, isn't it? Going into the international break with a good week is a lot better than going in with a bad one. So
that's a given. That's a given around these parts, right? So
at least it's not the international break this week for you.
God, one of many digs that are probably going to come my way. I'll roll with it, though. Don't worry. Right, okay. What are we going to discuss tonight, Mr. Az?
Well, we've got lots to discuss. We've got the big news is obviously Conte joining Spurs. So, I mean, there's loads of great things already posted on that. The Wire, Zophar and Late Riser, Zophar in particular, did a really good bit on tactics. So check that out. I've just got a bit on. You let me loose to do my research.
Well, yeah, I'm so distracted. I thought I'd let you have a go. So you've done some screens for us, and we're going to run through those and discuss Conte, aren't we? Yeah, so that should be good.
Are. Yeah. I mean, it's a hell of a signing for Spurs. It really is.
Are you surprised? First of all,
I'm very surprised. I'm very surprised that they've convinced him to take it. I mean, to me, he's one of the top 5 managers in the world. I don't think they could have done any better. They needed someone like him, and to have managed to convince him to come in is a massive coup for them. So really excited to see if he can rejuvenate Spurs, and in particular, obviously, can he rejuvenate Kane? Well,
yeah, and it's great for the Premier League as well to have him back. Amongst the big name managers that we've got, it's superb. So we're going to talk about him. We're going to look at. The show is called Back for Good, right? Nice pun. Because I love Take That, and also because obviously the defenders are just ripping it up, aren't they? And we kind of touched on Big at the Back a few weeks back, and it has kind of materialised as the way to go, it seems. So tonight, following Reece James's haul, I don't know if you realise Reece James got a big score last week. Yeah. We're going to look at whether going forward at the back is the way to go, because I don't see a way around it now, because we've got the 2 Chelsea fullbacks, we've got Trent and we've got Cancelo, and really all of them are a given, aren't they, at the moment?
Well, even Livramento's in the picture, isn't he? Just every week seems to be picking up points.
And also, Reguilon when Conte has his way. So, we've got to think about it. So, at the moment, I think not only going big at the back, but playing 4 defenders could be the way to go. I think you and I are both in very similar situations. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what's happened to the defenders and whether that is the way to go from now on, as well as obviously checking in all the data. I've got a few questions to springboard off some of the data that we're showing tonight. We'll do the predictions as always. I think you're doing rather well in that as well, but you've got to be good at something, haven't you? And then we're going to preview game week 11, of course. So should we reluctantly should we talk about our game weeks? I mean, I know you probably won't want to do this, but do you want to talk for your team? I'll do it quickly.
God, after last season, it's quite refreshing to actually be having a couple of good weeks.
Yeah, go.
Yeah, I mean, I played Foster over Ramsdale, which was a bit of a disaster. Foster obviously getting 2, Ramsdale with 10. But everything else went pretty well. I mean, Cancelo 2, Trent 1, James 21, which is quite honestly one of the most ridiculous things that's ever happened to me in FPL. I'll explain a bit why about it's so ridiculous as well in a sec. Salah with just 10, all the talk about him being the greatest captain of all time, and he only gets an assist, but is ticking over. Rafinha with 9, so he came in for Norwich, which is what I wanted him for. Foden with 2. Smith Rowe came off my bench, bit of jam.
Bit of jam.
Smith Rowe coming in for Bombo. Benched him again. He's looking like he's looking like a hell of a player, Smith Rowe. I'm glad I've got him. And then awful up front. Vardy 1, Antonio 2, and Tony 2. So it was a strange first game because obviously Vardy blanked and Smith Rowe was on my bench. and then it all kind of started getting a lot better from there. So,
well, you had Ramsdale on your bench as well. Like from the first game, I was like, oh, that's not having much luck here. Vardy 1 point, Smith on his bench, Ramsdale on his bench. Oh dear, I was like.
Basically, if I have a bad first game, for some reason, the rest of my game, it goes really well, because it happened to me last week as well. So, yeah, I mean, the funny story, though, is, I mean, the wild card...
Is it funny? Am I going to laugh? But go on. Am I going to laugh at anything tonight? I don't know. But
the wild card's definitely been a success, which is nice.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, I've made some good decisions. Smith Rowe, Rafinha came in. Foden got those 18 points. But Reece James is such a funny one, because I regretted him.
Yeah,
I regretted him after the first week, and he played in the cup, and I was actually going to sell him this week for Chilwell, like a sideways move.
That makes me feel so much better that you got the 21 points. And
but
you were thinking of selling him.
The only reason I didn't sell him was because I had Mopé.
Oh.
And I looked at my team and I thought, I've got to address the weakest link in my team.
Yeah.
That's how I'm trying to play this season.
And how long did it take you to detect that was Mopé as? All of a what? 0.4 seconds?
He was just sat on my bench, so I thought I could get away with him for one more week. But then with Mbommo was flagged, Rafinha was flagged, James was a bit of a doubt, and I just thought I just want to kind of get a player who's going to play. So I got rid of Mopé, and he hasn't got me any points, sort of. Directly, but indirectly, he's got me 21 points.
Well,
so,
that story warms my cockles, as I must say, makes me feel a whole load better.
I know. I mean, it's all the questions about is FPL luck or skill, and I think this game week is the perfect 50-50 split. I think I made some good calls on the wildcard which came through, but then there's a hell of a lot of jam coming in with James.
I would say, the thing for me that's so painful is I've had so much. I've just avoided the Chelsea hauls for the defenders. Like I started getting them in before you, if you remember. I had Reece James originally. Then I regretted getting Reece James and not getting Rudiger, because Reece James didn't turn up at Spurs and Rudiger got the double figure return. I was like, why didn't I just go to Rudiger? Then I went. I doubled up on Chelsea and got Alonso and James, and Alonso lost his place to Chilwell, and Chilwell went mad. Then I went James out. I went James out with the wild card, and then he's got 21 points. So I got Reece James before you. I got probably Chilwell before. I got Rudiger before most people got him, but missed his hauls. And now I've got Chilwell just in time for him to stop scoring and pass the baton to James. So if you remember,
that does warm my heart, Mark.
If you remember, I was like trying to prepare my team for Chelsea's good run and get on the Chelsea defenders before anyone else, and I did that, but got on completely the wrong ones.
Yeah,
and I won't even mention
on my wildcard, I was all in for Rudiger. I was like, I'm not even going to play this roulette.
Yeah,
with the wing backs, I'm just going to get Rudiger because he seemed like the safe choice. And then he had that back injury, so that's the only reason I went for James in the first place. It's a very strange.
Strange is one word for it. Strange, I'd call it strange. Incredibly fortunate, is it? No.
What I mean is, I identified James at an early stage that he was going to hit these.
Well, to be fair, we did look at his data. We've been looking at the defender data almost every week, and he's been up there with Trent, right? And with very few minutes, so a small sample size. I think, and obviously on the wildcard, I had teams with James in it. I had a 4 at the back team with James and Chilwell in it. But there was doubts about him playing in this game because Azpilicueta missed the midweek game, didn't he? And therefore I thought, well, perhaps James won't play. So, not only is it going to be difficult to get 4 defenders out when I've got a good midfield and attack, which is one reason I didn't go 4 at the back, but also James might not play anyway, and then it's Leicester the week after, and that's not an easy game. So I decided not to go for him, and what a mistake!
I think what's really interesting with both Chilwell and James is that they've both been a bit out in the cold. Like Alonso was first choice. Chilwell came in and had to deliver like goals and performances, and did. And James, we've always felt Tuchel hasn't really got the full backing of Tuchel because he keeps rotating that position. But James has just come in and absolutely done more than you could believe. So that's the kind of risk you take. You get these players in hoping they'll deliver like this, but in all honesty, I never expected Chilwell to score 4 goals in 4 games, and I never expected Reece James to get 3 goals in 2 games.
Oh, it's crazy. So the question is, what do we do? Crazy. What do we do now? And that's what we're going to look at. Look at later on. But elsewhere in your team, it's hilarious that the forwards did so badly. And again, that's really in tune with what we've been saying in recent weeks about. We said it last week when we looked at the forwards in the top. Well, I think 38 players. There was 5 forwards in the top 38 players. and Ings was the 5th best forward. Yeah. And lo and behold, I played my wild card and got 1 more point out of my forwards than you did. You just can't get anything out of them at the moment. It's just impossible, it seems, to get any scores out of them at all. And yeah, I mean, they had good fixtures. All 3 of your strikers had good fixtures, really, but just
yeah, I mean, and Antonio, assisting the assist. I don't know how he came away from that game with no points. Brentford were, just absolutely battered by Burnley.
Tony had a chance though. He had a chance. He should have put that away, to be honest.
Yeah, and you'd back him to do it. But still, it's a lot of games now about a goal for him. And Vardy was just complete. I mean, sometimes we see Vardy on the periphery and he comes in, but Leicester were just completely out of that game.
He was good. He was good in the second half, but when he's playing with Iheanacho, I think it's clear that he's quite passive, and Iheanacho does all the running of the channels and coming to the ball, and Vardy just stays on the last man. So when he's playing with Iheanacho, and we saw it last season, Vardy kind of goes missing, and Iheanacho gets all the kind of touches, and last season all the goals when he came into the team. But in that game against Arsenal, the first half, Vardy was anonymous, and then second half, then they brought Barnes on and Lookman on, and they switched to 1 up front. He came alive and was suddenly all the movement was there and the threat was there. So clearly, Rodgers has got a real problem. We've said it all season with his system. Like he can't get Barnes and Iheanacho in the same team. He's got to decide who he's going to play and what system would he play with them. Obviously, he plays 2 up front with Iheanacho. He plays the 1 and 2 wide players with Barnes.
It's just because it looked like it was working, right? We'd seen signs that their attacking data's better since he's brought Iheanacho into the team, and they had the great result against United. I mean, they're still conceding a lot of goals, but it looked like attacking wise, it kind of clicked. And then you saw that first half performance against Arsenal, and you just thought, what the hell is this? How is this a top
They had no midfield
chasing side?
They had no control in midfield whatsoever.
Absolutely terrible.
Yeah, so he made a good change, but it wasn't enough to turn it around. Arsenal impressive. Okay, let's look at my game week. We're going to spend all of about 12 seconds on this. 34 points off the back of a wild card. I mean, shocking, absolutely shocking. My worst game week of the season. I don't know where I came, but something like 5.5 million, maybe even lower than that. Worst game week of the season off the back of the wild card. That's not what you want, is it? That's not what you want. I think it's a stretch to say that was a success. But I'm going to roll out the cliche. A wild card is not about the one game.
Mine only kicked in the second week,
I know.
so I'm hoping yours.
This is it. I think you got 3 points less than your old team the week you played your wild card.
Yeah.
So you didn't have a good one either. And the only mercy for me is my old team only got 3 more points than this team. And obviously, if I'd have kept my old team, I wouldn't have had Foden. I wouldn't have had Son. I wouldn't have had Livramento. I wouldn't have had Chilwell. So kind of like, I can't regret it compared to my... That's a good thing. I can't look back and go, well, I should have just kept my old team. So at least I can't torture myself with that, because had I not played the wild card last week, I'm damn sure I would have played it this week anyway, because it would have been a miserable... I would have got 37 points. And
you've always said pounds, not points.
Yeah, but I think getting on Foden before, he's had 3 rises now, I think, since I got him in. So I'd have been 0-3 behind on him. I'd have been 0-2 behind on Wang, 0-1 behind on Tony, 0-2 behind on Chilwell, and 0-1 down from Benrahma and Sarr, I think, maybe even 0-2. So the swing would have been like, I'd have had 3 more points, but 0.8 or 0.9 behind. So when you look at it like that, it wasn't a bad time to play the wild card. It's just bad luck that no one returned. Absolutely no one returned. So, yeah, and I can't point to any bad luck with any of these players. I guess Wang had a goal disallowed, Foden had his assist disallowed, but Tony missed it. But there was just nothing there this week. And I think I wasn't the only one to play the wild card and do pretty badly. But I think given the value swing that I would have lost out on, I think I can't really look back and regret it. And I've just got to hope that I recover. So just for the podcast, it's Foster with 2 points. At least I can say Sanchez only got 1, so good decision there with the goalkeeper. Chilwell 8 points, small victories. Chilwell 8 points, Cancelo the 2, Trent the 1, Salah captain with the 10. A bad return for the captain, but as it happens, my second highest scorer. Jota, who we'll talk about again, we seem to talk about every episode, 1 point. Foden 2, Son 2, Wang 2, Antonio 2, and Tony 2. So I've got 1 more point up front than you, at least. There you go. Look at that strike force. It really is. So on the bench, I had Sanchez with 1, and Mbomo 0, Janssen 1, and Livramento, who, as it turns out, is quite useful to play now and again with the 6. So, yeah, I wouldn't have got Livramento off the bench. I'd have needed massive luck to have done that. Great in the good league. This is quite extraordinary. I had to check these numbers. I still don't quite believe what I'm seeing in front of me. So you're just 1 point behind template Tom Stevenson. He's on 697. You're on 696. He must be fearing it now because the Maverick manager is on his tail by 1 point. And Tom, who did he play his wild card? I think he has played his wild card. Is just 1 point ahead of you. You went up 19,000 places. You're on 696. Your overall rank is 21,857 as it shows on the screen there. You are 1 point behind going top of the Great and the Good League. You have never been as high in the Great and the Good League. I mean, you must be feeling on top of the world, right? Or second to be on top.
Yeah, I'm just wondering when I'm going to blow it. Who am I going to captain and ruin my streak? No, it's obviously it's nice to be in a good position at this point. Normally, I'm nowhere near this stage, so it's just about trying to get into that top 10k for the first time in like four years. Well,
I mean, you should be. You've never been this high at this stage in the season, have you? Can you remember?
I was when I finished in the top 1k. I was around this. Yeah, I was in the top 1k at Christmas.
Okay, because I've not been 21k with 10 game weeks gone ever.
Really?
So, no, never. Because I'm a late developer. Every season I come late. So I think it took me 19, 20 game weeks to get around there last season. And I finished 2k. So you from there, you more or less win.
Don't start these. I'm the captain Jesse Lingard again, aren't I?
Yeah, no, it's all right. I'm not going to put pressure on you. But I mean, I'm down on 657, so I'm a good 39 points behind, fourth from bottom, just above Joe and the amateur managers Fabio and Yavers, who they've dabbled a bit in previous seasons, but they don't really take it seriously. Only the best two managers in the world there propping up the table. I mean, what's going on? Crazy, but that's the way it is. But as I said, always in the Great and the Good League, I like to look above me, find a target. Not last year, I think it was General, and I went after him.
And Slippers,
and I went after him, and I missed. And then Fabio, and I didn't overtake Fabio. I missed out on Fabio right at the end, came second. So obviously now my target.
I always remember
it's got to be you.
I always remember the Scoutcast.
Yeah.
The year when you were, I think you were about 100 points or something behind Granville. And you clawed them back over the season. So
I'm very good at reeling it in. I'm very good at that. So
I'm not gonna get cocky and complacent. I need to beat you this year. That's the main target.
A 39 point gap is more than respectable, and that gives me. I wouldn't say it's a mountain to climb. Probably a hillock, a small hillock. I would say. Not something.
Joe Hillock.
Yeah. So exactly. So we'll see. I've got to start bringing that lead in, and it gives me a target. So actually, I'm quite excited by what's developed.
The good thing
disappointed,
is,
gutted, quite excited by what's developed on the show.
Well, the good thing is your team is very similar to mine.
Oh, thanks. That makes you feel so much better.
The captain is completely dead in the water because it's going to be Salah. So you're going to have to get in a couple of sweet picks.
I've got that in me. I've got things up my sleeves. If anyone can pull the old Maverick signing out, I think I've got that in me.
You're an old dog, Mark.
The only thing is,
the young blood's gonna.
I know. The only thing is, I look at late rise this season, last season. If you remember, when you start having a bad season, I'm not saying I'm what am I in the league? 188k in the world, which is higher than I was at this time last season. That's not a bad season by any means, but when you start to lose ground, you start forcing it, and I'm already thinking, I really want to get that player in. I'm thinking that is probably a very bold move, and I'll talk about it later. And you'll go, no.
I've got some good news from you.
Yeah, go on.
It's good news for you, purely from an FPL perspective, because it's injury related. We never like to say good news when it's injury related.
Oh no, what's happened?
It looks like Firmino's off injured
again,
which could mean Jota,
he only came off the bench.
Who I think
what's weird, and I know people say this, but I actually had a premonition of that would happen. Believe it or not, I have FPL dreams. Now, obviously, the people listening... Yeah, I know. The people listening and watching won't believe that for 1 minute that I dream about FPL. I mean, that's hard to believe, isn't it? But I honestly was thinking about Jota, who's been on my mind a lot. I don't know if you saw that image that went around on Twitter. It was quite amusing of you being replaced by Jota in the awards. That was very good, yeah. And I was actually thinking, I had this premonition that Jota would not only score, but there would be an injury, and then Jota would be nailed on, and then I'd be like, what was right?
Is it a premonition though, or is that just like hoping that it will happen?
It's hoping. Then it kind of comes in half sleep, doesn't it? And then it feels like a dream, a premonition. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's people out there listening and watching. Well, there's probably most of the people out there watching and listening will be shaking their heads and turning off at this point. But I think
Did you
there'll
then
be a
run on
small
the pitch
portion.
and score the
No,
goal?
I wasn't
in the
there. I
World Cup
wasn't at the
final?
ground. That'd be taking the dream a long way. I was just, I was just listening on the radio or something. And I heard that Firmino's gone off injured or a player went off injured. You're right. You don't want to wish an injury on any player, but that is convenient, I would say, for my FPL team. So
Yes.
we'll see what happens after that. But chink of light, maybe. Are you nervous already? You nervous already? You see.
To be honest, I don't want Jota to be nailed in the team because he's a good option. It's just when he's not nailed in the team. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Shall we talk about Conte then? Because we've touched on it, and you've prepared some material to discuss it. I guess, what would you want to look at first? You want to talk about the tactics and formations that we've seen previously?
Yeah, I mean, you know me, I like to keep things fairly light. I haven't gone into a full Ronaldo, analysis like you do. But I think the main things people were wondering is, obviously there's lots of people who know Conte, know Italian football a lot better than I do, know what he did at Juventus, rejuvenated a side that was struggling, rebuilt Juventus and went unbeaten his first season. Pioneered this kind of three at the back formation that so many teams now seem to play. And yeah, I mean, I'm not going to pretend that I've followed him, astutely for his whole career, but I've done quite a lot of reading about him and know kind of what he's about. And essentially, the Wingbacks is going to be so interesting with Spurs because the graphic on the screen is Juventus team with three at the back. With Lichtsteiner and Asamoah at Wingbacks. So these are kind of like the original ones that he had. Pirlo as this kind of registered deep line playmaker.
Decent deep line playmaker.
Just probably the best that's ever played the game. And then this kind of like big man, small man partnership that he's done so well with at all the clubs he's played with. So I've got Llorente and Tevez up front in this one, and then he had Pogba and Vidal. I mean, it's a fantastic team.
Plenty of energy in those two, right?
Plenty of energy. But what he managed to do was really get the most out of these players. And I've got some stats about these guys. So I mean, what people are wondering is how are Son and Kane going to be affected by this? And it's like the perfect kind of big man, little man partnership that he's utilised so well, starting at Juventus, and these wing backs with Emerson and Reguilon. And how they come into the team because they're so important. So, yeah, that was Juventus. If you have a look at Chelsea. So, Chelsea, he tweaked things a little bit. Obviously, still kept three at the back, but played this kind of 3-4-3 formation. So, it was Costa and Hazard as the kind of this two-man.
This was a golden era. I mean, I love this Chelsea team.
Me too. And Pedro came in and
yeah,
I remember he started so strongly, didn't he? And then kind of tailed off as it kind of went on. But I mean, what Conte did so amazingly well at Chelsea was, firstly, he didn't start with the 3-4-3 that everyone kind of knew him by.
Do you remember the Arsenal game? Yeah, it all turned on that, didn't it?
It's second half of that. So it was a 4-1-4-1 he started with, and to be honest, it wasn't too bad. He was doing kind of all right with it, and then had that Arsenal game, everything started going sort of tits up, and he changed everything, and from there didn't look back. I mean, the most interesting thing I think he did at Chelsea, apart from winning the league, was Victor Moses.
Yeah,
and how he managed to take that player just completely out of the cold and bring him in and find this kind of role for him in the side. So, I mean, there's plenty of players at Spurs who are going to be looking at Conte coming in and thinking, this is my chance to kind of get back into it. And I wonder what he's going to do with the likes of Lo Celso. Lots of people are getting excited about, because he could fit into one of these, midfield roles. Because I mean, Fabregas was there as well, not in this graphic, but this kind of, the Pirlo deep lying playmaker. I imagine that's going to be Højbjerg, because he's got the kind of range and the vision to be able to do that. But then he's going to have to partner him with someone like Lo Celso who can get forward a bit more. So really interested to see what he does with that. But I mean, Alonso and Moses was so key as well as Costa and Hazard. So Reguilon and Emerson, I'm really excited to see. Reguilon in particular is someone that I'm really
well. I've got some data on the Spurs team. We can talk through some names there, but I just want to go again about. This is when I kind of fell in love with Alonso for the first time. When he got moved to that left wing back role, I think I was quick to get onto him. Moses is a player that he's a scout, goes way back when I was a kind of, really fell in love with Victor Moses as a player at Wigan. I never got on Moses, but I always got on Alonso. I always liked to get Hazard in my team. Costa I always kind of avoided, and he always hurt me. But this team has got, I look at that team and it's got so many fond memories for me in terms of, FPL memories. that I wonder whether now, it's a new chapter and Conte's going to come in and create more like that. So it is quite exciting, isn't it?
There was just so many key players in the team. I mean, Kante, coming in from Leicester, like the work rate that he did, the energy he had. Hazard just playing like the best football he's had, just giving license just to kind of just do whatever he wanted, and Costa just like literally bullying everyone. It was an absolutely superb team. But then he went to Inter as well.
Let's get that up.
And this is another example of a rebuild job that he had to do. So in his first season, I think he got to the Europa League final. I don't think he won it. I think they came second in the league. But then in his next season, they won it, and I think they had the second best attack, but the best defense. A lot of Conte's tactics is based on this defense. It doesn't mean they're not a good attacking side, but they just don't concede many goals.
Well, they're they're always effective attacking team, aren't they? Right?
They're like, his teams are the best counter-attacking sides that have kind of like ever existed, and Hakimi is probably the best right wing back that he's had. I would say Eriksen has been there. Interesting with Eriksen, I was talking to Gianni earlier. I didn't know, but Eriksen can't actually play for Inter anymore because they've got rules around his heart condition.
Yeah.
So there's talks of him coming back and be reunited with Conte. It'd be a match made in heaven because he's the kind of perfect player that can commit to that. Perisic was converted into a left wing back as well, so obviously hadn't done that position before. And then you look at the strike force, and I've got some stats on these, but Lukaku and Martinez were just absolutely ridiculous. Like the amount of goals they scored, these kind of two partnerships that he's done. So the stats on the screen. So looking at the strikers first. So Martinez and Lukaku. Lukaku got 34 goals. Martinez got 21, and then they got 15 assists between them. In 17-18, Morata and Hazard got 15 goals for Morata, 17 goals for Hazard, and then 19 assists between them. Costa and Hazard before that, 22 goals for Costa, 17 goals for Hazard, 8 and 8, so 16 assists between them. And then Llorente and Tevez, 18 for Llorente, 21 for Tevez,
so
16 goals. They're just goals.
If only Conte had two ready-made forward players who could
produce
those kind of numbers.
This is it. What he wants are two players up front who have a good chemistry between each other, complement each other's game in the way the big man, small man works. Like, I think it's a key reason why he's taken this job is the thought of having those two. If Kane had gone to City, there's no way Conte would be in this job. He believes he can come in, he can unlock this partnership, and he's got the players. Because when I first saw it, I thought Spurs' squad is rubbish. Like, he's going to get rid of a lot of them. But the more I look at it in detail, I actually think he's got players there that fit this style. Like, he's got Romero, who's played in the back three
he knows
in
him.
Italy.
Yeah.
And knows him well. He's got Reguilon and Emerson who can do the job there. He's got Son and Kane up front. He's got Højbjerg, who's perfect for this.
He's got Eric Dyer. Oh no, maybe not. Yeah.
Well, yeah, Eric Dyer is definitely the kind of the stand-up. But I just look at Spurs and I think they've been awful this season. The United game was absolutely embarrassing. Like, it was beyond embarrassing. I had them to win.
Oh God! I mean, I obviously watched it being a Son owner, and it was just a far. I mean, I felt for Nuno because the crowd were just on his back, obviously early on anyway. And then he made that substitution where he took more off, and that was it, wasn't it? And then it was just so ponderous. They had no ideas or any route to goal whatsoever. There was no energy. There was no movement.
Nothing.
No. It basically epitomised Kane, basically. Kane has been like that for a few weeks now, and the whole team were kind of brought down to that level of, well, we're just going to pass it amongst ourselves with no real intent.
There's two things with Kane. One is, A, does he want to play for Levy? Because, he believes there's a gentleman's agreement there and he's annoyed with him. Second thing is, can people actually get him the ball so he can do stuff? And both of those things are question marks. I have no doubt that Spurs are going to improve under Conte. That's just absolute no-brainer. He will unlock these players a lot better. So the second one, I think, is taken care of. They'll get the ball to him. I think in January they're going to buy a creative mid. They're going to buy a centre-back. But I don't think they haven't. I think they've got the tools there.
He'll find a way.
To do quite well. He'll find a way, exactly. He might convert players into different positions. He might move things around. But he knows what he's doing. The question mark is, does Kane buy into that? Buy into this vision? Does he now think that Spurs are going to start competing and he wants to be a part of it? Or is he still going to be despondent and not wanting to play? I don't think he will be. I think he's going to buy into this.
Well, the thing is, if you're Kane and you're seeing Conte come in, you want trophies, right? there aren't many managers out there. Well, there aren't any managers out there who aren't already in the Premier League better at winning trophies than Conte, I would have said. I mean, they've got the best man they could have got. He's a winner, and he's proven it. Like, it only takes him one season normally to turn them into title contenders or title winners, right? That's what he's done. I'm not saying he can do that at Spurs because the competition is obviously fierce, but he will win them trophies in the next 3 or 4 seasons, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, when Mourinho came in, I thought this is a bad appointment. It's bad for the DNA of the club. It's bad for lots of reasons. Yeah. I don't feel that with Conte. Yeah. I think they've got in someone. This is the person they needed, who I never thought they were going to get. So, hello appointment. Just to move on to the wing-backs. I mean, the stats on the wing-backs are amazing as well. I mean, they had Perisic and Hakimi Inter. Perisic got 5 goals, Hakimi got 7, then they got 16 assists between them. Alonso and Moses. Alonso got 8 goals, 4 assists.
Yeah, there it is.
Just like absolutely unbelievable return. 8 goals for a.
That's why we loved him,
for a left wing back. Unbelievable. Moses, 4 goals and 4 assists as well. And then the season before that, Alonso got 6 goals, 3 assists. Moses again, consistent 4 goals, 4 assists. And then at Juve, Asamoah 6 assists, 2 goals. Lichtsteiner with 9 assists and 3 goals. I just can't stress how much he looks to unlock these wing backs to make things happen for the team. So I think we're going to go from no options at Spurs, and I strongly believe that there were no options under Spurs and under Nuno, to suddenly having four good options.
Well, let's talk about Kane, because he's a big admirer of Kane, as we've known, right, for many seasons. Even, he's never managed him, but from afar, when he was at Chelsea, he admired him, didn't he? And there were several quotes that surfaced around that period.
They're all coming out. So I mean, during Euro, we'll go back to 2017 at Chelsea. So he's at Chelsea at this point, talking about a rival, a London rival player, and he says, "For me, Kane is one of the best strikers in the world. If I had to buy a striker, I would go for Kane. He's a complete striker." I mean, what a quote. And then in Euro 2020, so this is the coverage, in the most recent international tournament, many praise Kane for his ability to go get the ball and play with the team, such as with the equaliser against Denmark. Of course he's good at that, but it's in the box where he's clinical, and as a coach, I would always keep him there because he is devastating. Now, we've heard that before from managers that have managed Kane, and he does seem to get this kind of license just to roam around and kind of do what he wants. But if anyone's going to be like, stay in the box, Kane, it's going to be Conte. And obviously this is one that surfaced as well with his interview with Henry. I always talk about education, respect, said Conte. I give this, but I demand this. If someone doesn't have a good attitude in training or good behaviour under different circumstances, I prefer to kill him. Fantastic quote. 2 things I take from that is, 1, if Kane's head isn't there, he's not going to play. If Kane isn't right and he's doing what I've seen him do in the last few games, Conte won't play him. I don't know who they play because they've got no one else that can come in. But I just don't see, if Kane isn't bought in, Conte's going to know.
Well, he will be. I think that and Kane got booed as well, didn't he, against United? I mean, I've never heard that so far this season, that actually boos targeted at Harry Kane. I knew he struggled to repair the damage he'd done in the summer with what went on. He's got a lot of repair work to do. But if you're Harry Kane now, surely you're admired by this manager. You've got a manager who can win things and can turn things around. He will guarantee him service. He will say to him that you stay where you can hurt the opponent and I'll get you the ball. We'll get the team geared around that. Son can do Kane's running. Kane doesn't need to drop deep and create things. Hopefully he will bring in a creative mid. They haven't perhaps got somebody there now, unless the Celso can step up to do that role, but they will recruit in that area.
Well, they never replaced Eriksen, and it's ironic that they could replace Eriksen with Eriksen if he comes in Jan. I mean, the other thing I take from that is this kind of work rate. It was interesting as well. Conte said in the interview he wasn't the most technically gifted player, but he put the work in, which is what I try and do on the football pitch. I'm awful at football, but I run around a fair bit, and that kind of work ethic is kind of key to his whole philosophy. And I look at Dele Alli and I think, you've got absolutely no chance of staying in this team. He's going to be out the door as quick as possible. Someone else mentioned it as well. Harry Winks, no chance. These players aren't good enough to play for Conte. So there is going to be a shake-up in the squad. But I do think they've got the players to make this work in the short term, and then they'll strengthen.
Well,
So yeah, exciting.
I've got the Spurs options up here as it stands now with the data. It's sorted by minutes per expected goal involvement non penalties so far this season, and Son is out on top, right? And you've got to go down to fourth to find Kane. He's behind Lo Celso and he's behind Bergwijn. That's the kind of season Kane has been having. I expect that to improve radically low. I mean, if the attitude improves, you'd expect the numbers to improve, wouldn't you? Almost overnight. So we're going to know early on.
Absolutely, and the other key thing is what you've got on the bottom of the screen, which is the fixtures, because the fixtures provide the perfect platform to get this going. I mean, Everton at the moment is such an amazing fixture to have for anyone with Doucouré out. I describe them as squishy. They're the most squishy team at the moment. They're like you get a knife, you could just cut through them. They just fall apart at a whim.
They were first half at Wolves. I think Benitez is very good at adapting things at half time, so it'd be very interesting. It's a home game though. They can't. They can't defend.
Watford was the reverse. They played okay for about 60, 70 minutes. And then just completely, they've got it in them just to completely capitulate.
Yeah.
I mean, then it's Leeds, Burnley, Brentford, Norwich. This is an absolutely
Leeds, Burnley,
great
Brentford,
run.
Norwich. That run there is why, I was thinking of saving the wild card for 12 and why I've got Son in early anyway, not knowing that Conte will arrive. And if you haven't got a Spurs player now, you've got to start looking at them, right? So let's talk about that, because obviously I think it's too early to talk about the wing-backs. I think Reguilon and Emerson Royal will be the two that probably start in those roles. Doherty could be an option, or Doherty, or however. It's been ages since we've had to say his name. That's the thing, right? So we've been under no pressure to get that correct. Now we might be in future weeks, and he's another player that we'd love to see back in the fold. But I think it'll be Royal and Reguilon who start at wing-backs, right? We're kind of presuming that, but we're not going to move early for them yet, maybe. That'd be a bit maverick. But we are definitely going to move early for Son or Kane, or both, right? So you haven't got either now. Right? I'm kind of committed. I was going Kane, right? Because I looked ahead at these fixtures and thought, actually, if everyone's going Salah, I'd like to get Kane in as an alternative captain in some of those weeks, particularly in the Norwich game in 15. And now looking at it with Son, I'm like, I wish I'd have held on to Kane maybe for that very reason, because I don't know what it is, but in me, I'm more likely to captain Kane than I am Son. Although under Conte, if they do play in a two, maybe that might not be the case. We'll have to see. But you haven't got either, so you've got a clean slate. Wildcard's not there, so you can't use that. So you're going to have to make some moves in advance, presumably. So what's your current thinking?
Well, I'm in a strong position because I can hold the transfer this week, and actually, I've never really done it before. But having Smith Rowe in my team really does help save transfers, because if your starting 11 isn't that great one week and you feel like you've got to make a transfer, having this kind of 5.5 option is actually really helpful. And I know the bench points are annoying, but I mean, he can come on. And yeah, I think like we had Souček last season at 5. I got Smith Rowe for 5.2, which is looking like a really good bit of business at the moment. So yeah, I can easily save this week. And then it's a case of I can do Vardy to Kane in one move.
Oh, can you? Have you got the money to do that?
Yeah, I've got the money to do that. Or I can make the shift with free transfers and get in Son. So really grateful to have the Everton game because I'll be paying particular attention to Kane. I think if things go back to how they were last season or season before, I think it would be Kane that I'd go for. But given what I've seen so far this season, which granted isn't very much, Son playing out of position in a two potentially with Kane is very attractive.
The thing that makes me think I'm okay with Son, definitely. I mean, obviously Kane's got the penalties. I don't know if I'm going to captain Son against Norwich. We'll have to see when we get there. Luckily, there's time. The thing that makes me think Son could still turn out to be the better bet is obviously he's got a new long-term contract there. He's settled. His future is with Spurs. And although Kane could turn things around, in his head, he's probably still thinking, well, if City come in the summer, I'm going anyway, right? So it could be that in his head as well. We don't know. I think he's going to buckle down. He's going to be, I don't know if he'll be the Kane of last season, but I think we're going to see improvement. There is no doubt. I mean, I got him in before the wild card thinking there's going to be an improvement. I don't know by how much, but I'm going to gamble on it. Then I saw him play West Ham and thought, maybe I'm completely wrong. Now, obviously, Conte's come in. In hindsight, I probably could have stuck with him. But yeah, you're in a difficult situation in that you've got the choice where some people haven't. Some people haven't got Vardy up front and can go in one move. That's got to be tempting to do that, isn't it?
I think it is interesting because Kane's got to impress me, right? I've got to see something from Kane in basically one game to make me think you're completely different. You're a completely different player to how you've been for the whole season. Whereas Son doesn't need to do anything. Son can have a bad game.
Yeah.
against Everton, and I'd still be happy to go for him. Like against United, I think the worst bit of the United game was when Kane was kind of ambling around up front. You know, he does that every now and then anyway, even when he's playing well. But the ball kind of like, I think the United defender took a bit of a heavy touch, and Kane could have pressed and won it, and he just didn't. Like, he just looked at it and just went, and then just kind of ambled back to where he was.
This is it.
I
mean,
saw
like,
that, and I thought that isn't tactics from Nuno.
Is it mentally that he's lacking? Is it up here? Or is there something physical with him? Because I know that he played in the EFL Cup, didn't he? And I thought that was odd. It was like, is he trying to get more games in him because he's not fit? I just couldn't work out what's going on with Kane. And I think this is going to be really useful to see how he reacts, because the presumption is it's a mental thing, and he's going to be immediately lifted by Conte, and then we're going to see a different Kane, a spring in his step. Well, we saw it at Newcastle, didn't we? A little bit. So we'll see that again. But if we don't see it, then we've got to start thinking, well, is there an injury at play here? That's why City didn't push on with it. Because there's all kind of speculation with that maybe there's an injury, and City looked at that and thought, we're not going to go there. I don't know. It didn't come out. Because it was all very strange. The thing in the summer where he didn't turn up for training, and everyone's going, well, he had his reasons. It's never come out, has it?
No.
He wasn't on strike, was he? We don't know. That never came out. But there was a lot of... So there's something untold about that whole summer, way that unfolded. So, yeah, we'll have to see.
Absolutely. It's, he's definitely got to prove to people that he's bought in. I think that's the most important thing. And also, I think the team also needs to start playing better as well.
Confidence.
Because if they go into Everton, they lose that game 1-0, and their heads are still down, then Kane at the moment isn't the person who's going to grab the team and shake them and get them performing. And then I think that does fall to Son, and that's where I think Son is. Unless I see unless I see something in the Everton game which makes me think Kane is back, and he was back against Newcastle, and then that quickly faded. But yeah, I want to see a better Spurs performance. I want to see the ball getting to Kane more, and I want to see his attitude shift.
Here's a question for you. Do you think the talisman role is up for grabs now then? Do you think Son could overtake Kane in the whole...
I think he has. I think he has already. I think Son is the talisman. I think if you were to ask Spurs fans, who would they rather get injured and be out for? I mean,
it's more of a morose question.
I mean, okay, who would you least like to get injured? That's maybe a better way of phrasing it.
Yeah.
Kane or Son? I think they would happily say they want Son to stay fit over Kane.
Yeah, I mean, he's more important to them at the moment.
Yeah,
but I think it can definitely change. I mean, I love Kane. Right, he's probably my favourite player playing in FPL at the moment. But like you said, we need to see more of him, and this is going to be so intriguing to see if Conte can't get it out of him. We know there's something wrong, right?
I just can't see any way in which Son doesn't massively benefit from this appointment. No. And he was already a good option even under Nuno, and now he's going to be an absolute amazing pick every week. So going for Kane and trying to tap into will he, won't he, all that kind of just seems a bit illogical when you've got Son there who's almost certainly going to deliver.
But I'm going to bring up the ticker at this point, because one of the key things about going Kane is you can then transfer to Ronaldo and gave it 15 for the Man United run very, very easily. And that actually is quite persuasive because...
Well, you wouldn't do it in 15 because Spurs have got Norwich.
Well, okay, 16. Man United's run starts in 15, although Palace at home is no longer an easy fixture, right? So that will change colour. But Norwich, Brentford, Brighton, Newcastle, Burnley is a very good run for United. And at that point, we are trying to think, well, okay, I need to be positioning myself for United assets. At the moment, it's Ronaldo, but we'll talk about a few other names in a moment. So if you do have Kane, you can move to Ronaldo quite easily. If you go Son, you'd have to look at a Rashford or a Bruno, right? Which might not be bad, but I'm just saying that's another thing to consider when you're making that choice, because many will be making that choice in the next few weeks or thinking about it over the international break. Okay, let's look at some team data, as we do, and look at the Spurs situation to this point. This is the defensive data. The top table is over the season, and right now they're ranked 14th for minutes per XG conceded non-penalty. Every 61.2 they've conceded an XG non-penalty, which the teams below them are Leeds, Watford, Burnley, Arsenal, Norwich and Newcastle. Some relegation threatened teams, or likely relegation threatened teams below them there. But Spurs they were ranked 18th on the ticker, so they've had a difficult first 10 games, right? So we should bear that in mind. Over the last 4, interestingly, they're ranked 8th for minutes per XG conceded non-penalty. So actually there's been an improvement. That's because they haven't done anything in attack, though, isn't it? Because Nuno just set them up so negative that they've improved defensively in terms of the data, but offered little in attack, right? So would you expect Spurs to climb that table over the season then, defensively, now that Conte's there?
Oh, there's no doubt. There's no doubt, because that will be the focus. The focus will be on getting defence and hitting teams on the counter. So, like I said, I don't think it's going to take much to make Dyer's a weak link, right? But you know, if he can start getting the most out of Romero, which we haven't really seen yet. Sanchez has got potential, hasn't really shown it like consistently, but has already had a couple of good games this season. And Dyer will be better in a 3. It's as simple as that. And you know, there's the Paul Merson quote about saying the only reason teams play over 3 is because the defenders aren't good enough to play in a 2. I completely don't agree with that at all. But I do agree that Dyer can only play in a 3.
Yeah, but
he shouldn't be anywhere near playing
I think
in a 2.
a back 3 with wing back can be a very attacking formation, right? And when it's
absolutely.
Conte at the helmet, can be for sure. So
although
he will shore it up defensively, it won't be.
It won't be at a cost.
No.
I don't think it'll be at a cost of the attack. I mean, the only cost of the attack is how good is Spurs' attack. Because I do think without that you know, that deep line playmaker role, and I mentioned Højbjerg, but he's a good passer of the ball, but he's not like a Fabregas or a Pirlo. Let's be honest. People are getting quite excited about Lo Celso, but I've not seen him do anything like to make me think that he's going to be the missing jigsaw piece to this Spurs puzzle. He has to buy in January. So the big question is still whether you know, the attack can be unlocked.
I think with Lo Celso, right, there's a player there, but we've never really seen him in a position where he's looked at home, and he's never had a series of run-in and starts where he's established himself. I think he's shown glimpses. I think there is a player, but Conte will. I mean, he's another one that Conte surely will look at and go, "I've got to get the best out of this guy because he's got the potential to be a player for me." But I think at the same time, you're right. They would be looking at creative mids as well.
I'm not convinced on Lo Celso. For me, from what I've seen, glimpses of quality aren't good enough, and they won't be good enough for Conte.
Not for FPL, but I think that he might get Lo Celso ticking over. We'll see. Other teams to talk about here: Wolves. Look at Wolves' start to the season, ranked second to defences behind Man City. Minutes per XG.
Do you remember our prediction about them at the start?
98.7. Yeah, we said, didn't we, that Bruno Lage would just get them attacking and they'd be wide open.
Unbelievable.
It hasn't turned out, but they have had the second best fixtures over the first 10, right? So they've had the fixtures to give them, that gave them the platform to achieve this. Just a note on the City numbers over the season. It's imperious, like 100 minutes per big chance conceded. A chance conceded every 13.2, which is almost double most of the other teams. I mean, Wolves are below them at 7.8. Chelsea 8.3, who many people would consider the second best defence in the league. And they probably will end up there, being second, because Wolves have probably dropped down with tougher fixtures. But City have just been ridiculous. And they're also top over the last 4. Chelsea are second. And then you go down to third and fourth over the last 4. It's West Ham and Palace. We talk about Palace every week, but they just went to City and won. We've got to talk about them again. They're the 4th best defence over the season so far. And they had the worst fixtures over those 10 games. How much is Vieira achieving there? It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, he's surpassing everyone's expectations. I mean, we say this every week. We're still not considering any of their defenders. Well, should we be?
Well, look at the ticker, right? That's sorted by difficulty. From game week 11 to 20, Palace have got the best fixtures. So we're looking now at data which is showing up Palace to have exceeded expectation defensively, and we'll look at the attack in a minute already. And they've now got the best fixtures coming up.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is that they don't offer anything attacking wise. There's not a PVA there anymore
in their defence.
In their defence that we can get in. Yeah. And when you look at other teams, we're talking about 4 at the back. Name of this episode. You look at Reece James, look at Cancelo, look at Trent, even Livramento is all offering a lot of attacking potential. And do I want to bring in a defender from a good defensive side that offers nothing attacking wise? And a few seasons ago, Joe famously said on the Scoutcast that the bread and butter of a defender should be clean sheets, and the attacking things are a bit of a side note, but that's not the case anymore.
No, I've never really
the attacking and the defence comes completely. But we've never had this array of attacking defenders before.
No. And we're going to look at that in detail in a bit. But I mean, Gaeta is the call, right? And we talked about goalkeepers a while back, and I'll bring up the keeper data as while it's relevant, because he's just been. He's been a consistent performer over many seasons with them. But a 4.5 and in a defence which is ranking, right up there with the best defence, but with the toughest fixtures, we've got to look at it and think now he'll be a keeper who should perform really well over the fixtures they've got over the next 9 or 10 games. And already, having gone Sanchez with the wild card, I regret not going Gaito. It was the Man City fixture, though, that put me off Palace assets, because I was considering Gallagher, I was considering Zaha and Edouard and Benteke. These are all names that kind of ran into my head. Gaeta was the one that was top of the list and nearly got in, but I just looked at the City game and was put off. And I think if there's any black box learning from that, it's like that was a bit short-sighted. That was like the City fixtures, like Liverpool away or Chelsea away or something like that. You look at that and think, I don't want to get a player with that fixture next. But actually, when you look beyond that, their fixtures are good. And I don't know why I got persuaded by that. I think it's because the instant gratification is what you want from the wild card, right? And I didn't get that by any means. But do you think that is a factor when we play the wild card?
I think it probably is. Yeah, I mean, I was kind of cursing myself for Ramsdale because I thought the same thing. I wasn't considering Sanchez because they had City and Liverpool, and and Ramsdale had the good fixture against Villa, and I was trying not to let that sway me, but I think it still did a little bit. And yeah, I mean, it's obviously not. I mean, the goalkeeper's kind of perfect for Palace because their fixtures have been so in and out. It's been hard to get a run of games. So like you don't want get a defender or Gallagher or someone. You're benching them in and out of the team. Whereas the goalkeeper, you can just kind of can just sit. So yeah, I think he's gone massively under the radar. 29 saves for Guaita, which is in line with some of the top keepers. Sar's got 31. Melié's at the top again with 36. If they can start keeping some clean sheets, then he's going to be
Melié is the one, as you said before, it's the 5 million. The other thing about going Gaito is you can then go a Brighton defender, and they've got defenders like Duncan and Cucurella who really offer some attacking threat, don't they? Whereas Palace don't have that, as I said.
Yeah,
so.
I think it's just so close between those 4.5-ish goalkeepers. Ramsdale, I mean, performance, I'm just unbelievable.
You've got to be happy with that.
I still can't get over this.
I think the free kick save was somewhat overblown. Because I think Raya's save from Jota was better myself, personally. But I think it was an outstanding save. He is very athletic, Ramsdale. The thing about Ramsdale is, whenever I think about Ramsdale, I always think about Norman Wisdom and Mr. Grimsdale. Do you remember Mr. Grimsdale? That'll be only greyhead, and people of age 40 plus will know.
Granville's in the chat. He'll know.
Mr. Grimsdale, Mr. Grimsdale. And whenever I hear Ramsdale now, I always think of Norman Wisdom. So I've got to get past that because he's not a comedy character. Ramsdale is a very good player.
Well, he's been viewed as a bit of a comedy character, isn't he?
He has been.
Two relegations. All the stuff with General bringing him in and getting loads of points. I mean, General played him. He actually got some points from Ramsdale. So the curse is truly.
Oh yeah, it's
broken.
Lifted. Yeah,
it's lifted. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I didn't expect him to come in and have the impact that he's had.
Outstanding. I loved Pickford because he was good with his feet.
Yeah.
But already Ramsdale is showing a different level of that. I do feel sorry for Pickford.
He'll be in the England team. So.
Yeah, I feel sorry for Pickford because already there's people out there replacing Pickford in the England team with Ramsdale. And I do think it's a bit premature because Pickford hasn't done much wrong. But you already... And hats off to Arteta for seeing, or Arsenal for seeing the potential in Ramsdale, because at Sheffield United, one of the reasons we thought they went down is because they had to replace their keeper, right? And we thought Ramsdale wasn't a replacement worthy of keeping them up. And we're proved wrong because in a better team and a year later, he's now one of the best.
He's player of the season, wasn't he? But
in FPL terms, we were like, Sheffield United...
He was a nightmare.
Yeah.
I tipped him at the start of the season to be top scoring keeper as well.
Did you? So, I mean, I think it's been a renaissance for him, which you can't deny. And I think I covet him now because I think he's a fun keeper to own because he'll get you saved. The only concern is that will his form regress and then they will let in goals, but we'll have to see. At the moment, he's flying high.
I think, like I said, there's just nothing between. If you've got one of Ramsdale, Sanchez, or Guaita, I think you're set because I think they're all gonna get roundabout-ish the same amount of points. I find it hard to pick one that I think is a clear favourite.
Yeah, Nancy Sanchez is doing better for minutes per save than I thought. 37.5 isn't that bad. It compares to the likes of McCarthy and Raya, who were considered better in that respect. So Sanchez is doing better for that. So I'm okay with Sanchez, but definitely Ramsdale is the sexy pick. So I do cover him a little bit. Team data attack, and this is where, again, we've got to give credit to Palace, where they've done well. They're mid-table with like the worst fixtures over the last 4. They're 12th and they came 16th, and they're 13th with the worst fixtures over the first 10. So, you'd expect to get more from that Palace attack now than we've seen. And to be honest, we've seen quite a bit already. You were talking about Edouard a few weeks back. Gallagher's been outstanding, and they've got Zaha and they've got Benteke, who actually is showing a different lease of life, isn't he now? So, do you think there's potential in the attacking players?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what Vieira's done so well. Is he's obviously focused on FPL, and he wanted to create some more FPL players for us to consider rather than just Zaha. And I think there is. I mean, Edouard's a funny one. I mean, I nearly got him in my team a few weeks ago, but he's not really getting the points and the goals. It's interesting that has kind of gone to Benteke. I don't think I can ever consider Benteke as an FPL option again. I mean, he's outperforming loads of these kind of 6.5-ish forwards. They're all doing rubbish, and he continues to look quite good on the stats and stuff. But I just don't trust him. I mean, that's a bias, right? That is players can be rejuvenated. I just can't help it. I just can't help but feel like he's not that good, but he's delivering. Yeah,
it's strange because he did look a world beater at times when he was at Villa, and he looked unplayable, right? He was that kind of striker, and he's just had many, shall we say, testing seasons at Palace, and it's very hard for us to lose that kind of perception of what he offers. But at the moment, he is spearheading the attack and doing very well for them. But yeah, I mean, I think Palace, we'll look at some of their individual players in a bit, but also to highlight this is the task in front of Conte. Look where the Tottenham attack is. Minutes per XG, non-penalty, 97.2. Only Norwich have got a worse record over the first 10 fixtures. Okay, Spurs had the 18th worst fixtures in terms of the tick of 18s, but that is dismal, isn't it? I mean, he can't help but turn that around, can he?
But there's just nothing. There was just nothing there. And, it's not surprising because this was what Nuno does. It's not surprising that they won the first 3 games 1-0, sort of battling I mean, he was manager of the month in August, which is the most amazing thing, and sacked after that. But they were never going to be an exciting team under Nuno to watch attacking wise. And I think just as the weeks went on, the players got more and more frustrated with the shackles they had on them, and they're going to love being liberated.
Okay, West Ham, look at this, 3rd in our table over the last 4 with minutes per XG, 49.7, and 3rd overall for the season, 54.1 for the first 10 game weeks. And yet, there were people out there considering getting rid of Antonio, perhaps overlooking Bowen and selling Ben Rama as well. I mean, I just keep getting impressed by Moyes and West Ham. I don't know, I don't know if I can ever lose Antonio at the moment, despite the returns have dropped off definitely. But I'm looking at Bowen. I'm thinking if they had better fixtures, I'd be right in for Bowen at the moment.
Yeah, and this is the example where a system can come in and benefit everyone so much. So this is what Spurs fans are going to be hoping for under Conte. I mean, again, football is such a weird transition, isn't it? I mean, David Moyes getting the praise that he does for the system. He's done an incredible job. But yeah, I mean, Antonio is an interesting one. I can completely see why people are selling him. I mean, the fixtures are, I don't know if you've got them, but Liverpool at home, Wolves away, Man City away, Brighton at home, Chelsea at home.
Yeah, but after that, the run's good, right? From 16, it's really strong.
The run is good. I mean, the biggest kind of justification for keeping him is the money you've got tied up in him, but points, not pounds.
I don't think it is. I think the biggest justification is that form from West Ham and the fact that they can score goals against Liverpool. Antonio scored at the Etihad last season. I think they will score against Liverpool. I think I've gone for a 3-1 win, but I don't know. I think they are hard. Moyes has made it very, very difficult to overlook them. And I think from 16, I'll be looking at getting another West Ham player in. If I've still got Antonio, I might go with 2.
If you've got, for example, Tony Jimenez, and then you're looking at getting Kane.
Yeah.
Or if you've got, but if you've got Tony Jimenez and Antonio, and you're looking at getting,
I'd sell Jimenez.
You'd sell Jimenez. I wouldn't. I'd sell Antonio.
Would you?
Yeah. I think there is a real case when you've got a player, and we do it with these highly owned players. We think about ways. We do it with the captaincy. We look for potential ways in which we can get ahead of people. He's nearly 50% owned. I look at those fixtures and I think West Ham can score in those games. I think they can score. But how many goals realistically can
Yeah.
Antonio score in these matches? And it's not just 3 matches; it's 5 difficult games in a row. Can Jimenez outscore him? Yes, I think he probably can. Can Tony? Well, he needs to find his shooting boots. He probably can.
But this is the point, though. If you look at Jimenez and Tony, I don't think there are free-scoring viable alternatives. Like if Tony had shown some form up until this point, and maybe after the Norwich game, it'll be different. I don't think Tony and Jimenez are at a level yet where you can say they're going to outscore Antonio, even with Antonio having those fixtures. That's the thing.
No, well, you can make a case either way, right? But my point is that if you think they can, this is a good opportunity to try and get ahead of 50% of squads if they've got him. I mean, Tony's next games are Norwich, Newcastle, Everton, Spurs and Leeds, and then Watford.
Yeah.
They don't get any better.
Yeah, but most of us have got Tony and Antonio, right? Or a lot of managers have as well. I'm not arguing about not getting Tony in. It's the selling Antonio for an alternative. I mean, I do think Tony over the next run is someone you want to get on, and obviously I did, right? But I don't know if I'd go Jimenez over Antonio now, because Jimenez has got West Ham at home, Liverpool at home. They're not, they're not that easy. Palace away as well. Palace's defence is strong, we've just seen. So I don't think those fixtures are ultra strong. I think Tony's different, but neither Jimenez or Tony are in flying form. I mean, Jimenez is playing well, don't get me wrong, but I still look at Wolves and think, don't know, they're still...
But it's a debate, right? My point is, if you look at Antonio and you think these goals are going to dry up for him over this run, you don't just look at it and think, oh, he's 50% owned, I better not sell him and I don't want to lose value.
No, it's the opposite, isn't it?
Because it's the opposite, and this is where I think we can use use that
I agree
kind
with
of,
you there.
even to our advantage. I'm not saying like I don't know, like if, I wouldn't put money on Jimenez outscoring Antonio or vice versa. I think it is close between them, but if Antonio does blank and you do get returns from Jimenez, you get a huge.
Yeah, that's very true.
A huge
and Jimenez has got pens and probably Antonio.
And Norwich, basically any team with Norwich coming up is good.
Okay, this is a player data over the season. I'm going to look at player data over the last 4 in a minute just to compare and contrast. Just a player I've highlighted there. I mean, Ronaldo was obviously impressive at Spurs, but what did you make of Cavani? I mean, I did say they're going to need to get somebody else up top with Ronaldo. I did say he's not going to work on his own. And he did look better, I think, with having Cavani up there with him. But also Cavani was impressive, right?
Is it the oldest strike force that's ever played in the Premier League?
What a couple of legends, though. I mean, it's not bad, is it? It's like
got a few trophies.
It's like a football manager team. If you took over like a mid-table team and you could pick up those two on a free or on the cheap,
Yes,
right?
exactly
At the tail end of their careers, you'd have Cavani and Ronaldo, wouldn't you?
And just completely destroy your wage budget and all your structure.
Just to get those two. That's what Ollie's done, basically. But it is a bit much when you've got Greenwood and Rashford on the bench.
Yeah, I mean, surely Rashford is the kind of the long-term strike partner if he's going to stick with that system. Yeah,
Cavani was good though, wasn't he? Did you not think?
Yeah, he is, but has he got the legs to do it every week? I mean, maybe. I mean, it's a partnership that always looks like it should work. I mean, Ronaldo does better with a strike partner up front, and again, it's why it was such stupid commentary. Was it Paul Merson again who was like, if you take away the goals from Ronaldo's performance, he was a 2 out of 10, something like that. It's like, take the goals out of his performance.
You're going to get that from Ronaldo. Right? That's the Ronaldo we've got now. We haven't got the one.
That's why you play him in a 2. That's why you play him in a 2, because then he literally doesn't have to track back. If you play him on his own up front, he has to do some of the dirty work,
and he can't do it
and help out.
He can't press, and he can't run the channels like he used to.
But
right?
you don't want him doing that.
No. But that was my point when I said when he was coming in. I think that he will struggle as the lone striker. Right? Just didn't see it working because he hasn't. He was with Morata before, and I think the Cavani pairing works, right? But yeah, I mean, Cavani's not going to play the midweek games, is he? So if he could be preserved for the league games, but.
I mean, it's incredible when you think United are literally changing their tactics and freezing players out like Sancho, who they've paid ludicrous amounts of money from just to make this work, and putting Cavani and Ronaldo up front it's a hell of a statement, because it's kind of what you don't buy Ronaldo and then not build a team around him.
No.
And whether it's the best long-term strategy for United going forward, they've got all these young players, Greenwood you mentioned, all that's fine. But right now, they need Ronaldo. Like, there's no question that they need, and I think they'll stick with this system.
Well, Ollie can't afford not to play him either, can
he? He's the only thing keeping him from a P45 and probably a huge massive payout. So yeah, it's going to be Cavani or Rashford. But I think I can't see Cavani long term partnering with Ronaldo. I think it's got to be Rashford that has that position.
Okay. Also in this table, this is the top.
Which sorry, just instantly does make Rashford actually, I think, quite a nice option going forward.
Sure. Also, this table shows that in the top 30 players for minutes per XG non-penalty, there are two defenders, and that's Alexander-Arnold and Reece James. You know, they've done exceptionally well to get in there amongst forwards and attacking players. Like Reece James has got better XG non-penalty than Rafinha, than Mbeumo, and Mbeumo's playing up front. You know, it's staggering what they've achieved down there. But you know, we talked about just now about Raul Jimenez, and you compare his data to Antonio. There is no comparison. Like Raul Jimenez has shot every 36.9, Antonio 23 minutes. So at the moment, for the season so far, Antonio's numbers still remain impressive. And if we look over the last four, yeah, he does drop down. He does drop down. Like he's 23rd in this list for minutes per XGI non-penalty. So his form, in terms of the data he's produced, has declined. But you look above him, and there aren't many names in terms of forwards that you'd rather have than Antonio. You're not going to go to Adam Armstrong. You're not going to go to Werner. You know, you're not going to go to Cavani yet, or Firmino. Benteke we've talked about. King's at the top. So there aren't players above Antonio in terms of the data that you'd immediately go, well, I'd rather have him. And Jimenez is not on this table, right? Interesting that Kane and Ronaldo over the last four have dropped out the top 30. Kane's 39th on 214.3 minutes per XG non-penalty. Ronaldo down on 234.7. Benteke third, 89.7. You're still not convinced, as can I build a case? No.
It's third. I mean, it's yeah. I mean, he's not getting the returns though, is he? That's the main thing. Well, I find 2 goals in 4 games isn't too bad, I guess, but he's underperforming on these numbers. So if these numbers start to drop, then he's
he had those four big chances. Arsenal, yeah.
So,
but one player who is highlighted here is Elise, who's threatening to break into that Palace team. And we know he arrived from Reading with a big reputation for creating chances. He's got 1 goal and 2 assists in the last 4. Minutes per shot, 42.7. It's assists that we would get him for. I think he's 5.4. 109.4 minutes per XGI non-penalty. So when he's been on the pitch, he has created for Palace. I know we've got Gallagher, and Gallagher, you know, he is in this table. Where's Gallagher in this table? Is he in this table? Maybe he's not. No, he's not.
Can't see him.
No, so he's not. He's outside of these players. So Elise is someone we've got to monitor, I think, because he's around the same price and actually probably a more reliable attacking asset, although, you know, Gallagher's done very, very well. Have you tracked him? Are you looking at him?
No, can't say I have, if I'm being honest. I mean, I still like Zaha at Palace. He's not on this list either, is he? But I guess he's been hadn't really been in the team. I just feel that, you know, with Zaha playing with a smile on his face, freed up, other options around him, not feeling the weight of carrying a side on his shoulders, and he's still the talisman for that team. I still feel like he's the one to go for. Well, yeah. I if I'm being honest, I don't know too much about Elise. I haven't seen him play much. So
he's overall. These are midfielders for the season so far. Overall, he's 4th for minutes per XG on penalty, 120.5 behind Mount, Salah, and Mahrez. So he's right up there with some big names. He hasn't broken into a Palace team enough to start games, but it seems like that's a matter of time. You compare that to Gallagher, who's down in 22nd, 188.3, and Zaha, you mentioned there, out on 307 minutes per XGI non-penalty. He, you know, at the moment, the talisman, as I would describe Zaha, is lagging behind Gallagher and Elise. And yet, if I was getting rid of Jota, that's what I would do. I think I would look at Zaha. Now, what do you think of that? I thought you'd go, oh, that's a mistake. But if we look at Palace's fixtures, and he played up front, obviously, last time out at City, Wolves, Burnley, Villa, Leeds, it's a good run. And they've got United away after that and then another good run. But I do think Zaha, you know, he is the talisman. They're about to run into better fixtures. He's on penalties. 6'9". It's a good option, right?
Look at us agreeing on something for.
I didn't think you would, because I thought you can't stand the guy because he will scores against Brighton. But
well, I can't. But I'm trying to look past that. I think he's the best option at Palace. I think, you know, Gallagher's role changed somewhat, I think, from when he first kind of exploded on the scene and operating a bit deeper, and you can see from the stats not really getting kind of into those high positions. So you're looking at Elise, but he's not even in the team either. So it has to be Zaha really in the midfield. I don't think Edouard is Yeah, I mean, 3 goals for Edouard, but playing most minutes, it's not a huge return, being overshadowed by Benteke. So you either go Benteke or Zaha. I don't believe you're going to go Benteke. I don't believe anyone's going to go Benteke. And I think Zaha has had these injuries, but he's gonna be a major factor. I really like him. 6% ownership though.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, it's not high, but higher than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, well, these are the forwards, and Benteke is 10th overall for minutes per XG on penalty, 173.0 minutes. 10th behind Werner, Calvert-Lewin, King, Lukaku, none of which really are options that we'd look at. Then Cavani, your man Antonio, Ronaldo, Firmino, and Daka's top, but limited minutes, of course. Tony and Kane right down there in 23rd and 25th in this table. But we'd expect both to improve, right, with better fixtures and Conte coming in. And really Tony really, for me, the Norwich game is the acid test, isn't it? If we get nothing from that game, we'll start having concerns, right?
Yeah, it is a massive concern with him. He's got to start. You know, he's still a kind of a championship striker in my eyes that needs to prove himself in the Premier League. Because we've seen it before. Championship strikers, Mope, they keep going on about it. 25 goals. Well, did he get 30? I can't remember. He got a lot of goals. So many strikers get lots of goals in the Championship and struggle in the Premier League. And I think Tony's offering a lot to Brentford, but doesn't help me. Doesn't get me points.
8% conversion rate. Big chance every 300 minutes, which is the lowest that I can see in this table until you get outside the top 30. And maybe not. You go down to Sam Maximan, Iheanacho and Dennis, but a big chance every 300 minutes is not what I imagined. I thought that he would be spearheading the attack and on the end of most of their service, but it hasn't turned out that way. So we have got concerns going into this easier run.
You just can't sell him ahead of the next 3.
No,
Norwich, Newcastle, Everton.
Yeah,
like you've got to give him those 3 games.
Yeah,
and then reassess after that.
Yeah, and as we've said previously, there just isn't the options up front at the moment. We are lacking convincing options, which for me is why Antonio's still a keep. But I get what you're saying. I think if you want to try and gain some ground, moving away from Antonio could be an effective tactic. Let's talk about defenders, because I put some together. This basically is an analysis of the top 50 point scorers this season compared to last season, a number of defenders in there. And as you can see, this season there are far more defenders in the top 50 FPL scorers than there were last season. And not only that, you've got James who's ranked 5th, Cancelo is 8th, and Alexander-Arnold who's 9th, whereas last season at this stage, it was Zuma who was 10th and Chilwell who was 11th, who were the best ranked defenders, right? So not only have we got more defenders amongst the higher ranked players, but actually the top defenders are in the top 10 overall, right? So that's quite a big difference. I thought I'd kind of see this in the stats as well. I thought there'd be more clean sheets and more goals to defenders, more assists to defenders, but it hasn't really rung true. If you look at the data below, last season we had 1.81 matches per clean sheet, and this season it's 1.75. Goals and defenders at this stage, 38 compared to 35 this season. 54 assists last season at this stage from defenders, 56. So not any massive difference at all.
No.
I think the difference has been, though, the top defenders, as we saw in previous weeks. It's the top defenders at Chelsea, City, Liverpool, who have really excelled. So they're coupling up the clean sheets of attacking returns, and no one could have predicted what Chilwell and James have done in recent weeks. So the question now is, and you're in a similar boat to me, you've got James, I've got Chilwell. Are you now considering getting Chilwell and going forward the back, and like I would be James and going forward the back?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I mean, Tuchel said it himself. He said that you can't consider his wing-backs as defenders. I really like that. He sees them as wingers, like midfielders. He described them as midfielders. So, you know, we always kind of have this thing, which is, the wing-backs aren't really defenders. They're just, midfielders with a clean sheet point. And I think you can extend that to Trent to some degree as well, and Cancelo, because of how involved they are in the attacks for their sides. So I think there's a real case for forward at the back. Chilwell and James, I don't think suddenly things have massively changed based on where they were like 2 weeks ago. I still think James is going to probably miss a couple of games. I think there is still going to be a bit of rotation between Alonso and Chilwell. Chilwell's the safer one. I keep saying it because you've got Livramento who can come in and gets a 90. James, I think, is the most subbed on. You said it, didn't you? The most subbed on.
Yeah,
defender.
8 times under Tuchel, yeah.
Yeah, by far. Is that going to change? I hope so, and I'd like to think it would based on his performances, but you kind of never know. I still think it's too much.
You're not going to move that way?
No, I don't think so. I can see why people were doing it, but I think there is still lots of potential in midfield.
Because that's the thing for me. Because for me, you'd have to drop. I mean, you're probably going to play 2 up front. We're not going to consider 4-5-1. So you're dropping a midfielder, right? And we've both got Mbeumo. You've got Smith Rowe. Right? So arguably, you should be playing those two. Certainly Mbeumo because of the fixtures, and Smith Rowe the form. And then you've got the likes of Gallagher in there as well. So there are good options at 4th and 5th mid, which makes you think you want to play the 5 in midfield. Now, I've always been an advocate of that because I do think that's where there's volatile movement in the form and fixtures and so on. You can move your 6.5 mids out. We haven't talked about Rafinha. He's another one, right? So you want to be playing 5 in midfield, I think. But it is tempting to just go, no, I'm going to forego one and get the Chelsea pair in.
Yeah.
But then are they going to keep up what we've seen in the last couple of games?
Well, this is it. I mean, don't forget they've had the three easiest fixtures they could possibly have. They've had Norwich, they've had Burnley, now they've got Newcastle, now they've got Burnley. They then go into Leicester, United, Watford's easy, West Ham, Leeds. These are teams that should, in theory, get at them a bit more than the teams we've seen. I don't love a double up. I just don't love a defensive double up. That's the biggest problem. And if you separate it completely and you say, okay, these aren't defenders, these are midfielders, and having 2 Chelsea midfielders in your team, I wouldn't really complain about too much. But I still don't know if they're always going to be that level of attacking wise. But maybe I'm wrong and overlooking it.
Yeah, it's difficult for me because I love Reece James and I want to get him, but I've got Chilwell, and that is probably the more sensible option at the moment. I've got to look at it and think, once Mbeumo's fixtures have played out, or even if Brentford don't make the most of the Norwich game, they're going to Newcastle, Everton, Spurs. Is Mbeumo a keep? Could I just move to a 4-5 and then go Reece James, which is something I've really got to consider. Depends a lot on what I do with Jota, because Jota's probably the easiest sell in my entire team, and then I can sell him to a Gallagher and move to Reece James like that. But I think I'd rather go to Zaha than Gallagher and then not move to a 4. I think we've got time, haven't we? Because Chelsea got Leicester next, right, after Burnley. I'm not going to move now. They got Leicester next, then they got United. I don't think it's until 14 when they got Watford and then into Leeds in 16 that we really need to think about it seriously, maybe.
I think it's important to remember to compare them like price wise. So like looking at Chilwell or James, you're comparing them to like Mbeumo, Gallagher, Smith Rowe, these guys, and they are definitely on par with them. Well,
more so, haven't they? Because they've got clean sheets as well,
exactly,
right?
Maybe even more so. So there's definitely a case for it. And I think what's interesting in the last few weeks is that if you were to ask me 2 weeks ago, if I was going to pick 2, I would have said the safety net of Rudiger and then one of Chilwell,
absolutely,
or Reece James. Whereas now it's definitely the case. If you're going to get 2, you definitely get Chilwell.
And it's the way Luke went a while back, right? He had them both at the weekend, right? And it's the way I set up a lot of my wildcard drafts before I reverted back. So I regret it now. I've got to consider it, I think, because like you said, it's like you're comparing James at 5'7" to an Mbeumo or a Gallagher, but you're getting clean sheets as well as the potential for attacking returns in a better attacking team.
And a top 2, top 3 team rather than a.
I don't think it'll be much to persuade us. I think if we see a couple of returns, we'll be tipped over the edge to 4 at the back. So really interested to see if that materialises. Okay, we are going to look at our predictions now. And this is a sorry sight for me, really, because I did badly again. Only 3 correct outcomes compared to your 5. You had 2 correct scores as well. You successfully predicted the Newcastle-Chelsea game 3-0 and that Leeds would win at Norwich 2-1. Dismal showing for me. So now overall, you've got a 49% strike rate on outcomes to my 45. You have got 10 correct scores to my 7. And you've had more clean sheet. It's an absolute whitewash, which, it's a good job I'm beating you in no. But yeah, so basically I'm struggling all round this season in all respects. I've got to call a team meeting and we've got to sort this out.
Yeah. Well, they're gonna replace you.
Getting
Granville, I think.
I feel under pressure. I do feel under pressure. Yeah, there's a few jeers in the crowd, and I'm feeling unsettled by it. Let's look at this week's fixtures then, because again, just to reiterate, we don't see each other's predictions, so these are quite similar, but we don't see them beforehand. What I tend to do, you don't realise, is I fill mine out, hide the column, send it to you, and then you put yours in, and then I unhide and have a look, and it's like, oh look how similar they are. So don't go cheating and
can
unhide in
I
that column.
unhide? I can unhide.
No, don't do that. I want you to. I shouldn't have told you that, should I? Okay.
I don't want to copy you anyway.
No, of course.
Mark.
Why would you? Why would you? Okay, Friday night game. Southampton versus Villa. Not great, is it? Not great, that one. A fixture for Friday night.
I think it's going to be more pain for Livramento benches.
You're saying
likely.
2-1. You're saying 2-1. I'm saying 1-1. I do think Villa will score. I don't think this is a spectacle, this game. Villa, I mean, Smith's under pressure now, isn't he? You know, we don't like to see it, but he's not the biggest FPL fan in the world, let's face it. So, you know, it's hard to be sympathetic. But I like Villa and I like Villa fans, so I don't really want them to struggle. But yeah, they need a point here. I think they will get it, but you're tipping a Southampton win.
I just think Southampton have got it down at the moment. They're a brilliant team, a real unit. They've got the tactics sorted, personnel. Everyone's doing a shift. You know, they've got goal scorers now with Broyer's coming back. I think back in training.
Is he fit? Do we know?
I think he's back in training, so he's might be back. But even if he's not, Che Adams is stepping up at the moment. Adam Armstrong looks a good signing. There's a lot going on with them. Villa, I don't know what they are. I don't know what team they're going to put out. I don't know what their structure is. I don't know what their tactics are. Their key players. Buendia is struggling. Ings is missed out the game. Watkins isn't scoring.
Mings was benched. What did you make of that?
Mings was benched. I mean, that's a big call that just didn't pay off at all. And Conte got sent off as well. There's definitely unrest and things aren't great. It's a good time to play him.
Okay, well, we'll see. United City, we've both gone 2-0. An agreement there. You know, City aren't whacking teams at the moment. They're not 5 or 6-0. I don't think United are going to get routed again. I don't think we're going to see the likes of that again. And obviously, Ollie's got a new system which he'll probably deploy against City, but I don't see him making an impression on the City defence. And then nick a couple of goals. I mean, I'll be expecting something from Foden here. He scored tonight, didn't he? Yeah,
definitely expect something from Foden. I just think, again, Ronaldo papered over the cracks last night in the Champions League. I think Spurs, anyone could have beaten that Spurs team. It was completely not what I thought it was going to be at all. I mean, the new system is interesting and United could stifle City, but let's see, United won't have the ball. I just don't see how they're going to get the ball to Ronaldo when they just don't have the ball.
Yeah, yep. Brentford Norwich, you've gone the 3-0, I've gone the 2-0. I don't think too much to say about that. This is the result we want to see, right? I don't know if what we'll see is a handsome win for Brentford, but it's what we're expecting and what we want to see from... I mean, I'm trebling up on Brentford. I'm going to have Janssen and Bomo and Tony, so I've got to see a home win, right? I think that we will get it. You've gone more emphatically.
My dad will be shaking his head. I had a Skype call with him the other day. He's not a fan of Brentford.
Is he not?
Thinks they're going to get relegated.
Why is that then? Is that the system they play?
He says they're not as good as everyone thinks, overrated, and their teams can get at them and they're going to concede too many goals. That's fresh off the press.
Well, the Raya injury could be the turning point, right? Because he was key for them in the opening games and he's a personality and he's a presence, right? And Fernandes, I wouldn't say he struggled at Burnley, but Brentford struggled, right? And so we've yet to see how much of a loss Raya is going to be. This will be the acid test, though, because Norwich can't score goals, can they? So
I mean, it's a bit alarming when Burnley just cleave you apart in the way that,
true,
that
but
they did.
Burnley have had that performance in them, haven't they? I think so.
Yeah,
but
that's the kind of performance that we've associated with Brentford doing, not getting done in the same way. I mean, Norwich were good in the first half against Leeds, and then it all kind of went.
No Kane Edgelow
poorly. No, that's the problem. I just can't. Have they got 2 goals all season or something?
Well,
yeah, they're going down. No chance.
Chelsea Burnley, you've gone the 2-0, the clean sheet. I think Burnley will nick one. They all seem to get a goal at Stamford Bridge. I don't know why I've got that in my mind's eye that them scoring a goal, but I do fancy them nicking one. But I think Chelsea will be too powerful for them. And like I said, if we see a return for James or Chilwell, then the back four might be on for a lot of managers. Wolves, Palace, you've gone the 1-1. I think Palace will nick this. I think they're too strong.
Really?
Yeah, I think defensively too strong. I'm not convinced by the Wolves' attack. I've got Wang. They missed some chances the other night, I've got to say, and Jimenez played well again, but I'm still on the fence when it comes to Wolves and what they can offer us in FPL terms, and I do like what Palace are doing.
I just thought I want to give them both a 1-0 win, and I can't, so I'll give them both a goal.
Seems fair. And it's working for you, so who am I to knock it? Brighton, Newcastle, we've both gone 2-0. I think that's a Lawrenson scoreline, but I think it's the sensible one. I just can't see Brighton conceding to them.
No, I think we'll have too much of them. I was hoping to see Newcastle being really poor from set plays and Duffy being used. But actually, Newcastle aren't doing too badly from set piece chances. I think they're definitely in the lower end of the table for chances conceded from set plays. I do wonder if this is going to be where we finally see Lamptey. I think it could
Start
be
a
Lamptey
game.
coming in. Yeah, I think Lamptey could start this one. Again, the minutes he's played, he's basically playing as a striker, which is kind of what he was doing last season. Lively Lamptey, Lively is through the scale. So I think he could start this. And then it's a question of what happens with Veltman and Duffy. I wouldn't be surprised to see either of them miss out.
I've got a feeling it will be Veltman at start.
Yeah, it could be. Because we saw Duffy benched against City, obviously.
Yeah.
Cucurella's a good pick in this. I like him as differential. Trossard as well.
Oh,
False
yeah.
nine against
Trossard.
Liverpool.
Yeah.
Absolutely bossed it. I mean, this is what I keep saying though. Like he's got the ability to be a player for a top team. He's such a talented player, but he just doesn't do that kind of performance like he did against Liverpool consistently.
For too long, he's like Nathan Redmond. Looks a great player, no end product. But then he has these matches where he produces it. And Newcastle was the fixture last. Isn't that the game you captained him last year? Then
it was indeed. Yeah. Mopé has a good record against Newcastle as well. I think he'll come back in the team and Trossard won't play as a full time, but Trossard will still be playing up front with him. I think Trossard could be
and Newcastle will let him have chances, won't they?
Yeah, I mean his goal against Liverpool, Trossard, was fantastic, and the one he had disallowed as well. The feat he did for that. He's classy player.
He's got it. Absolutely got it. Yeah. Arsenal Watford, you've gone the 3-0. I've gone the 2 home win. Yeah, it's hard to back Watford at all, isn't it? Really. I mean, they had that second half at Goodison Park, but is that more about Everton than them? I don't know. This will be a test to see if they've got. I think they're a better away side. I think they've got that counter-attacking threat. So we'll see what we get there, but it's hard to back against Arsenal from what we saw against Leicester and the form they're in. Right?
Looking like a team again.
Yeah.
Nice to see.
Everton Spurs. We've both gone 2-1 Spurs. You know, I guess we just have doubts about that, the Everton situation at the moment, and we expect an instant bounce, right?
Just think it's a perfect game. You know, if Doucouré was back, I'd say there might be a bit more of a spine to Everton, but he's not. And I think they'll exploit it. And I think there will be a bounce, and I'm hoping to see more from Kane. I just don't think Everton have enough to win games at the moment. They're just there's no one there. They've got no personnel. Hell of a job for Benitez.
Yep. And Leeds, Leicester, you've gone the 2-1 Leicester, I've gone 1-1. Leeds are fun. I mean, I wasn't that impressed with Leeds at Norwich, I've got to say. Rafinha was sensational, of course. Took his goal brilliantly. But he hasn't got much help. Really,
it's a very average team. And if they're not all playing at 100%, 110%, like they have been under Bielsa like last season, they really get found out because the team isn't very good. Like there's no players in that team other than Rafinha, who I think
they've got good players, I think, but they're missing key components. Well, Phillips is a good player, right? Phillips is a quality player.
Phillips and Rafinha are the standouts. Everyone else.
I like Llorente at the back. I think the keeper's decent. I think they're a Premier League team still, even with the team they've got now, just about. But I think
they get relegated under another manager.
Well, maybe. Yeah, Bielsa obviously brings more out of them. But Rafinha, I want to look at the fixtures they've got as well, because Rafinha is a player I've obviously got to consider. But look at them; they're bottom of the ticker, right, for the next 10. And yeah, Leicester away, Leicester at home, but after that is Spurs under Conte, Brighton, very strong defence, Palace, very strong defence, Brentford, very strong defence, Chelsea, very strong defence, City, very strong defence. They've got not a lot going for them after the Leicester game in terms of goals, because they're playing against teams who don't concede many chances. So
yeah, absolutely, he's out for me, Rafinha. If I decide to go for Son, he's definitely the one in my midfield that I'd lose for him.
Right. Yeah, I was going to ask you that about what you would do, but yeah, I mean, that ticker shows that they're in for a tough run after the Leicester game, and they need Bamford back because I don't see them scoring many goals over that run. Rafinha will have to do it on his own. Yeah. And then finally, West Ham Liverpool. It's a cracking game. This, I mean, this for me, both teams are two of the best attacking teams in the league. You've gone 2-1 Liverpool. I've gone 3-1. I do think there's a goal in it for West Ham, but I think it's hard to look beyond Liverpool. I don't know what's the final score tonight. They've won tonight, have they? Do you want to have a look?
City won 4-1. Liverpool won 2-0.
Right, it's just a 2-0. Yeah, but it'd be interesting to see what they put out against West Ham, whether Jota does start. But if he does, and I keep him, I've got to hope for something from that. We'll see. Right, the captaincy, talking to Liverpool, because the matrix is absolutely dominated by Salah right the way up for the next 5 game weeks. But my question to you is now, with the backdrop of Conte in at Spurs, how likely is it that we'll start looking at them from maybe game week 12 when they play Leeds, maybe game week 13 when it's Burnley, Brentford at home 14, and definitely 15 when they play Norwich at home, right? Are we now thinking there's every chance now that we will look at an alternative to Salah over that run?
No.
Still not?
No way. It's going to take Conte time, right? And Spurs could look great in a game. There's always that risk that they could not perform in the next game. I still think that the lack of creativity in the side is going to be a problem. I don't think we're going to see them scoring buckets and buckets of goals, and Salah's too good at the moment. So the only time I'm considering not playing Salah is in game week 12, when I just really like the look of Ronaldo against Watford.
Not captaining Salah, yeah. Here's another question for you. Should we have the Chelsea defenders on here?
Yeah, Reece James is, a little bit tempting this week. I was a little bit tempted until I saw that Salah has got 9 goals against West Ham, his best of any Premier League team.
Didn't he get a brace there last season? I seem to remember that.
I just thought I'm not backing. I know that those stats are a little bit
mean nothing. Yeah,
mean nothing. But I kind of feel like they do mean something.
It's funny how often it turns out like that, doesn't it? Kane's got his favourite teams.
Yeah. Look at Manu with that record he had against Palace. It was like 8 or 9 consecutive games or something. And you just knew he was going to score in that match. And he did. And it was just, it wasn't a surprise at all.
And Salah's also very aware of stats from record, right? Do you think that players have that mentally? They go, I always score against this team, so I'm more confident. Is that a thing? Yeah. You think that is?
I think it is. I think it is for strikers. I think, we see a lot of superstitions with footballers as well, right? Like your boots have got to be put on a certain way and your lace got to be done up and all that. And I think that that goes the other way in terms of if you feel like you're going to get a goal, you're more confident. If I play any sport and I'm feeling my best and feeling like ready for it and up for it and stuff, then I play better.
Though, it seems absolutely crazy that would be the case, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But we see it all too often for it not to be summing in it, you think. Obviously, all the algo guys are just swearing at the screen now if they're watching. But yeah, I do think that it is odd how that turns out. Okay, let's look at the captaincy for this week then in a bit more detail. Yeah, and when we start looking at the player data for this week, as always, Salah is just overwhelming the big favourite. I think you'd be very brave to look anywhere else. I think if you really needed to, maybe Aubameyang at home to Watford. Maybe you would look at Tony versus Norwich, but I think this week of all the weeks coming up is the harder one, right? I think in other weeks, if we look back at the matrix, there are some options. Nothing really convincing me. Even Vardy at Leeds. Leicester was a little bit unpredictable. I don't think you could do it, could you?
There's players that I think can outscore Salah. I think Vardy can outscore Salah. So I think the Leeds fixture is good for him. I think James can outscore Salah. I think Tony can outscore Salah, given that he's got Norwich. Yeah. But it's just that relentless consistency. Even the 5 points, I still like that. I like getting 5 points from a captain because it means you haven't got a blank. And I just don't see Salah blanking in any games at the moment, which puts him ahead. I wouldn't be surprised if Vardy, Tony, or James outscored him, but equally I wouldn't be too surprised if we ended up with 2 or 3 points. Whereas if Salah gets 2 or 3 points, it's like, what has happened? That's the difference.
And looking at the data of the opponents, West Ham's defensive data is very strong. A big chance every 120 minutes over the last 4. The best on show here of all the opponents for the contenders. So defensively, West Ham will put up a barrier. But we've said before, this is a debate I have with Andy, and Andy, I'm talking about Andy North in terms of teach mode. So he always says that he prefers just to look at the player, not the defence, because sometimes you can kind of factor in that. And when it's Salah, it doesn't matter who he's playing against. We saw it against City, didn't we? The best defence in the league, and he tore them up. So, yeah, even with West Ham's defensive data impressing me, and they have been stronger defensively recently, it is tough. But Watford are there,
they keep conceding, though. That's the other thing. The defence is good, but they just keep conceding goals.
Yeah, they do give up opportunities. I was impressed in the last few games. They do look like they've got a bit more steel, but Salah's just on a different level still at the moment. It'd be interesting to see how many blanks it takes for us to change our mind, though. We've had an assist. If he blanks at West Ham, if Kane and Son impress, I think we will start seeing the trend turning. I do hope so, because in a way it is a little bit dull that decision is taken from us, right?
Absolutely.
All right, let's look at your team, because benching dilemmas all round FPL this week, I think. Every manager's got 1 or 2, I think, but You definitely have, right? Because look at your bench at the moment. I mean, this is what I put together. I don't know this is definitely what you're thinking of, but I presumed it was because you mentioned playing Duffy. So do you want to go through it?
On.
Right.
Yeah, bang on. This is currently what my team's set up. Ramsdale in goal, Trent James and Duffy. And Bomo, Salah, Rafinha, Foden, Smith Rowe, finally getting a start for me. Tony and Vardy. And then a bench of Foster, Cancelo, Antonio and Livramento.
Wow. Three starters in any other week, right?
I'm not a million miles off bench boosting, you know.
I tell you what, that is a good point. I hadn't even considered that.
Yeah. My only sort of issues with it is that having looked at the Newcastle defensive stats, set play stats, they're not as bad as I thought they were hoping they were going to be. And also, I don't know if Duffy's definitely going to start, because if they were like bottom of the list for that, I'd say Duffy's going to come in and they're going to look to exploit, you know, his threat. But I think, like you say, I wouldn't be too surprised if Veltman did come in. Antonio at Liverpool, I'm not expecting a huge haul from there. I mean, he could nick a goal. Foster
so
in goal.
Would you play Cancelo? That order is right. You're going Cancelo over Antonio, right? Because there's much to. I watched the Green Arrow last night. There's a bit of debate about it there, and I'm sure we're all thinking, what's the right order?
Yeah, I think so. It is a tricky one. I think I'll probably end up playing Cancelo over Duffy, and then Antonio first sub.
Right. Okay.
I mean, it's a hell of a bench.
It is.
It really is.
And your vice is Tony, not that you need him. Is that the way you're thinking?
Yeah. I like anyone playing Norwich.
Right. Fair enough. Let's look at my sorry team then. I mean, it isn't a sorry team. I like it. I should do. I've just played the wild card. Sanchez at home to Newcastle should be all right. Trent, of course. Janssen at home to Norwich. I bought Janssen for the set pieces with this fixture in mind. I think Norwich will struggle against Brentford on set pieces, as we've seen in so many games. They seem to just lead a siege on the opponent's goal and win corner after corner. I don't know if they'll need to do that, because they'll probably be 2 or 3 goals up. But if they do, Janssen's got a goal coming, I think. Chilwell, home to Burnley. I'm playing Cancelo at United at the moment. Midfield of Mbumo, Salah, Jota, Foden, Son.
Firmino hamstring, by the way.
And then Tony. So that's the second hamstring injury he's had this season, Firmino. So he won't play now. Jota will start, I imagine, at West Ham. So that's good, right? So this is probably the team I will put out. It means benching Antonio. It means benching Livramento. And it means benching
Wayne. I mean, your bench isn't far
It's not bad. It's not bad.
Either.
No.
Yeah.
No. I mean, I think this is the case, right, with many managers this week. And actually, right, if you want a differential, it's perhaps just going different with the bench and playing Antonio and benching, you know, an unlikely player, or playing Livramento and benching Cancelo or something like that, right? You don't have to look beyond your own team to find a differential this week, perhaps.
Yeah. Craig says it best in the chat. He says, as his dad does not approve this team with the 3 Brentford players.
Oh, well, he wouldn't, would he? You know, we won't get a super chat off him anytime soon now because of that. I don't know what the problem is with Brentford. I mean, I know I have been disappointed with the front two. And Mbumo's not got the finish in him, and they haven't created for Tony, which I really didn't predict. I do like the way they play low, and I do quite like the old-fashioned, like, let's get all the centre-backs forward of set pieces. I can't like that. So I think they're a great addition to the league at the moment. I think a lot of it's like we saw with Wolves, isn't it? They really impressed against the teams they weren't expected to beat. And then when they've come back up against opponents where they really should have the upper hand, they've been maybe less attractive. I think it's the same with Brentford, right? They've immediately failed against Burnley. It could happen again against Norwich, because the onus is they will expect to win, or people will expect them to win that game. And perhaps we won't see the kind of performances we've seen against tougher opponents.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think it's Tony's last stand, isn't it, if that's the case?
Yeah. The big battle for us this week is Son v Vardy, I think.
Our teams? Yeah, I guess it is. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we'll see an instant reaction from Son, but I like having him in there. Right? I don't have to think about that. I think the advantage I've got over a few managers now, having got him in, is I haven't got to think about the Spurs asset, and I can look elsewhere with my transfers. And if Jota is now going to have a run of starts, then I'm in a really good place. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Let's look at the Blackbox League then, because we've got a new leader, and it's Tabiz Hashimi, who has entered the league as a new entry. He's 5th in the FPL stand-ins, and he's gone immediately top of our league. Khalid Badaki is second, 764 to 769. Harry Jones has gone up to third on 753. Edith Shotton on 752 and Gregor Gasparak on 751. So some new names in the top 5.
Big scores. In the top 5 as well.
Really big scores for the game week. Look at that. A lot of Reece James is about in those teams. And in the Apprentice League, not surprisingly, you're now top on 696, me on 657. Natalie has regained third place on 623. And Henry's bringing up the rear, just 4 points behind on 619. Natalie very relieved to regain the top spot ahead of Henry, right?
She is, yeah. She was very, very upset last week, but feeling pretty good. Feeling pretty good now.
No, that's good for her. and she's 30 points behind me, so I'm not too worried. But what I am worried about is Billy, my son. I don't know, have you heard this? That he's had an incredible couple of game weeks, similar to yours, and he is now just 14 points behind me.
Ooh.
And just to put this into context, Billy has forgotten to change his team on 5 occasions of the 10 game weeks so far. Billy, as far as I know, does not spend 4 to 5 hours preparing a podcast about FPL every week. I don't think he does. Anyway, he's kept that very
listening to Harry Potter.
Yeah, and Billy is 14 points behind me.
If Billy beats you, that would be the greatest thing to ever happen.
I mean, if there's anything that makes me think, right, I need to not take it seriously, don't get too upset about, some game weeks. It's that, right, that we've seen it before, haven't we? People who don't not touch their team do really well and fly above you, and it can be a bit demoralising, but at the same time, I think it's quite a healthy reminder that, okay, you're at the mercy of variance a lot of the time. And I'd like to think that I'll pull away from Billy's team, but we'll see. I mean, he obviously is taking it very seriously now. Of course, that's the other thing that's changed, is obviously now he knows he's nearly beating me, he's actually putting more time into it. And of course, if he starts beating me as well as you, it'll be a sad day indeed. A sorry time for me. You'll let that go, though, won't you? You'll let that go completely, right?
I won't mention it once.
Right, okay. And the painful thing about all this is it coincides with a very busy time for me in my day job, which means, unfortunately, I will have to bow out of the next couple of black boxes, I'm afraid. So I know you're going to
hear a collective gasp.
You're going to spin a story that I'm dropping out because I cannot stand the fact that I'm losing to you, aren't you? You're going to put that narrative out there.
I don't think I need to spin a story. I think that's clearly exactly what's going on. I overtake you.
I mean, honestly, I was under stress to make it tonight, hence why we're late. And I thought to myself, I can't not do it tonight, because if I not do it tonight, people will think I'm sulking because you're beating me.
Well, when you're spending 2 to 3 hours crying each night, then it's hard to find the time to do these, isn't it?
That's what it is. I'm basically beating myself up so much I don't have time to think about FPL anymore, because I'm so anguished that I'm being beaten by you and nearly beaten by my 9-year-old son. You can't blame me, can you? No, so I will be missing for a couple of weeks. It's an international break next week, so we won't have an episode next week. I will spend that international break getting you up to speed with the tech, because the following week, I presume you're going to get a guest. You're not going to do it on your own, are you? So you're going to get a guest on, right? Any thoughts about who that might be?
No one wants that. Well, it's be Luke, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
If Luke's around. His shifts are a bit of a nightmare, so we'll have to sort of play it by ear. But yeah, I know a lot of people will be tuning in and going, "Oh, where's Mark?" And I'll just have to.
It'll be fine. I mean, Luke's doing better than me, is where he's beating me. But I'll be back probably.
I'll get Billy on.
Yeah, exactly. Well, don't. Slippers might be. Although he had a bad game week, we didn't mention that. He actually got 36 points, but he took a 4-point hit, so he did worse than me. So having been top of the great and the good league, how the mighty have fallen, eh? So I don't know if he'll be up for doing it.
Oh, is Alan in the chat? My favourite.
Oh, is he turning up to say?
No, Mark, no reason to tune in.
Oh, there we go. There he is. See, it's not me after all. There was a theory that was me. But no hands. I'm not typing that, so it can't be me, right?
Yeah, but you've got lots of different other ways of communicating. You got all the tech.
Okay. Look, I'll be back in a few weeks. It's just the situation. I've got to throw everything into my job at the moment. It's a crucial time, and it's getting harder and harder to find even time in the evening to be on the show, let alone do the work that's involved in putting it together. So I'm passing that over to you. I will be a presence in the background, and I might guest on one in a couple of weeks, but it's probably going to be December that I'll probably come back. So a few without me.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm not even sure I'll be able to tune in, but I'll watch back.
God.
It'll be fine. It'll do better without me. You watch, it'll fly, and everyone will go, "Oh, Luke and Az are amazing." It'll be back to the Top Gun guys, won't it? So I love those.
Have a bit of a rebrand.
Well, I don't know about that. I'm not sure I feel comfortable about that one. Yeah, we'll have to see. But yeah, I'll be back probably end of the month or early December. See, I'm taking weeks off it already. But yeah, in my absence, fly the flag and everyone behave for him, and hopefully I'll be back when I do come back. The gap won't be 39 points, but we'll see.
Be a bit more.
Yeah, you swine. It's a good night for me.
Good night, everyone. Didn't do the smash and likes though.
Oh, do the smash and likes now. Do it now.
I'll do it now. Just before we go, 1,842 people watching. Thanks everyone for your support as always. If you could like this video right now, maybe you've just forgotten, but you need to do it. So just do it. Still my dream to get 1,000 on live, but I don't know if we will tonight.
Will we ever achieve it? Maybe when I'm not on the show.
Yeah, 1,000 dislikes maybe. But yeah, thanks everyone. And yeah, make sure you subscribe to the channel too. And I will see you after the international break. Hopefully with Luke. If not, someone else.
Someone else is good. I'm sure. But yes, good night for me again.
Good night, everyone.